Okay.
Okay.
It's saying preparing to live stream. Setting up.
Okay, here we go.
It's working. Here we go.
Here we go.
Hold on before you do.
Okay.
Excuse me. Can you hear you guys up there? Can you guys hold it down a little bit, please? Thank you.
Really?
I just had to let the.
Okay.
I just had to
It's
let
so
everybody
funny.
know.
Okay, we're good. Let's go. I
Thank
think
you.
we're live already.
We are. We're live. Here we
Well,
are.
that's how this live. Then what you want me to do?
Oh my God.
Okay. Robin, are we on?
We are on. Welcome.
Hi. Welcome,
Hi.
everyone. Oh my goodness, it's so good to see you. Well, I can't see you, but you can see me. So we are coming to you live from Conejo Players Theatre. There's our theater. Here we are. And we are so excited to have this author talk with Patty Wray, who wrote the script for Nat's Last Struggle. Welcome, Patty. Thank you so much for being here with us. Where are you coming from?
I'm coming from Waynesboro, Virginia.
So it's colder there than we are.
We are cold and expecting 6 inches of snow tonight. So.
Well, you have fun with that.
Okay, thank you.
And then in our screen of the Brady Bunch here, we have April Dobbs, who is the executive producer who just flew in from Atlanta today. Thank you, April.
Oh,
Hey.
We
Hi,
have
everyone.
John L. Adams, who also flew in from Atlanta. John is
How you guys doing? It's good to see you all.
good to see you.
And Timothy Jones, who is our director, who hello, Timothy. Hi. So guys, we're just going to begin. And April, it's all you. I'll be here. I'm just going to hide my face.
Well, Beth, we have to say hello to Beth. Beth is the Conejo executive producer, and she does a phenomenal job. So thank you so much for putting this together, Beth.
Thank you so much, Beth.
So first of all, I just want to thank everyone for joining the live tonight. We're super excited about it. By now,
You're muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
uh-oh. Okay, now we go. There we go. Leave it alone, Don. Okay. So I'll start all over again. I just wanted to thank everyone again. As you know, we're super close. We're only 2 days away before curtains open on Nat's Last Struggle. And it has been a labor of love and an exciting process to this point. We're super excited to have you here, Patty, to even talk about this. First of all, I know we're going to ask the most obvious questions. I want to know more about you. I want to know about, your vision and the process it took for you to write this play.
Okay, that's a big chore.
That's a lot.
Robin had floated some questions by me, and one of them was what drove me to write this, and I hadn't thought in those terms before, but it had sort of brought some things out. So I'm going to share that.
Yes.
What drove me to write it was, first of all, being haunted, and second, being angry. Now, but it's not what you think. I was somewhat haunted by Nat Turner, by the man, but I was more haunted by the children who told me about him. And I was angry, and not at Nat for what he did, but for what my government, what the state of Virginia didn't do. So those two things, the being haunted and being angry, started at age 16. Now, some of that's still with me to some degree, but I'll tell you a quick story about what happened.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes, I would love to hear.
So I took my grandmother to Southampton County, Virginia, a place where she was born and where some of her 11 siblings still live there with their extended families. And we went to a family gathering. It was a place I had never been before, and I was meeting people I didn't know. It wasn't too long before some children half my age, I was 16 now, I was, teenager, just learned to drive. And these kids wanted to show me something. So we went out in the backyard and went across backyards and through a field and got to a road. And they said, "You see that? you see that bush over there? There was a raggedy bush across the road. And so they took me over there and they said, there used to be a tree right here where this bush is. And this is where they hung Nat Turner. And after he died, they cut him down, they cut off his head, and they skinned him. I mean, I was horrified by the story. Right. But more than that, I was horrified by the glee and the pride with which they told it. And I responded to him and I said, you know, this is a horrible story, and I don't see anything funny about it or anything to be happy about. And one of them looked at me and said, you don't even know who he is, do you? I didn't. And he said, well, he was a slave who killed a bunch of people all around here, and we hate him, and he got what he deserved. Wow. I know. Well, after they said that, I mean, I was stunned, but I also felt some relief because I was at a family gathering. There was a Turner family gathering, a white Turner family gathering. And my grandmother's maiden name was Turner. Well, that being stunned and that little moment of relief after hearing, I probably wasn't related to this man, but anyway, I started feeling angry. I mean, I was angry that these kids knew about him and I didn't. I mean, I was going to, you know, a good public school. I was in advanced college prep courses. I didn't have any of this in my history classes. So when I left that family party, I was a changed person. Wow. I was angered. I was soon to be haunted, and I was driven. So,
I'm going to be honest with you, Patty. I was not expecting that. I really was not. And, you know, and that is incredible. You made a lot of good points, particularly about the fact that you had no idea who he was. However, there's this folklore. There was a story that people knew about and bragged about in the present day, but it was left out of our public school education curriculum. So that part I find the most troublesome about this. And it'll lead into why I now know why it was important for you to tell this story. So you said you were haunted as a child. I'm imagining this story like that, you know, a visual of that. And I've read your work. I know that you're very expressive in your writing, so I'm pretty sure you're extremely visible. And so I can imagine that did haunt you for a long time. When did that lead to actually writing the play? You said you were 16 at the time. So when did you begin the process of writing the play?
Well, I was 16, getting in college prep, and I had a working class dad, and I always knew I wanted to be a writer, but he didn't understand what that was. You know, what does that mean? Are you going to write for a newspaper, or are you going to write books? I mean, who's going to pay you? You know, I'm going to pay for your education. I want you to be something I understand. So I said, oh, okay, you know, you're paying for it. So I decided to go into healthcare. So I wanted to do something helpful. And so I went into physical therapy. I had 20 years in physical therapy practice. And I tell you what, I wrote some daggone good progress notes. I had one orthopedic surgeon called me one time and wanted to know if I was coming on to him. And I said, what? I said, no, you're married. He said, that's notes. He said, so anyway.
It's like romanticizing the notes.
So I was lucky enough, I had a private practice. I was lucky enough to sell my practice. And then I was able to do what I wanted. So so I started reading a lot. I mean, I knew I didn't have a background in Black history. I went to New York, I went to Harlem, went to the Show'em, bought tons of books and read. And we didn't have a place for playwrights to do much in Norfolk. So we got associated with a theater that eventually had to move, and where they moved, they couldn't give us much time or on the stage. So I had a business partner, so we went in and bought a small storefront and opened a place called the Venue on 35th in Norfolk, where the playwrights could have a home. But it takes us so long to get anything ready. We had to open the doors and let the poets come in, and the burlesque dancers and the singers and songwriters. And we just said, this is your space, make it what you can, just help pay the bills, and you can do what you want here. And that's what we did. And we had a lot of poets, spoken word artists, and Nat Turner kept coming up in a lot of the poetry.
Wow.
And it just struck me, I have let this sit so long. I needed to start investigating it. And so that was 2008. I started doing the research for it. Went to Southampton County again, the second time I'd ever been there, and went to the Historical Society, and they had 8 hours of this video with these, so I bought those and watched them all. That's another story. But anyway, I talked to people, local folks, and read a lot of newspapers and stuff. And the confession, though, was really what made me understand who Nat was. So I depended heavily on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So in your research, you did mention earlier that, you bear your family's surname Turner. Were you able to find any ancestral connection?
Do you know that's something I have not done? I didn't want to do it because I didn't want it to influence the play.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you before, we have another version of the play where I introduced the Great Mother character. And there's a story behind that too. But I really still felt like Nat had to get out. It was mainly being done in Virginia. And I think this is something that happened in Virginia, and people have real strong feelings both ways. I really wanted, this is wonderful that the play is being done in California and being streamed everywhere, so we can see what response we get to it. But when I decided I wanted to live the life of a writer and not run a small theater and have to do all this stuff to get burlesque dancers and clean the johns and do all the stuff that a small little theater you have to do.
Yeah.
I turned it over to a friend and came up here to write. And lo and behold, I moved in right next door to a genealogist. She writes books for family. That's what she does.
Oh.
And so I told her, when I found out that you guys were going to be doing this play out there, and we would get some different responses to the play, except from Virginians, that I wanted to do the genealogy search and see if there's any connections to my family with Benjamin Turner, who was Nat's first owner. So anyway, that's where I am. So stay tuned.
Oh, wow. That is just wild. And I'd love to share with you an ancestral story and very similar, because I think you may find that interesting. Speaking of which, talking about how people around you perceive the story, the people in your community, people who didn't know about Nat, what was the perception? How did people receive your play? Or have they been exposed to it? Like, what has been the response that you've gotten from your community since you wrote that play?
It's been overall very positive, because people that tend to go to theater pretty much are more open-minded people. But it has been done in certain communities where there are audience members that just said, well, I just don't think that he should have any type of redemption for what he did. He killed all those children. And so we have to take those things into consideration, but it didn't, when I wrote the play, I just wanted to show his humanity. He was just a man. He wasn't this awful, fanatical, murdering fanatic over here, nor was he really this superhero. I mean, he was a man that struggled with being another man's property, with his children being born and being another man's property. His wife, he couldn't even live with his wife. They were on separate plantations. He was whipped. He was promised that he would be freed one day. And when he asked for it and they whipped him, that was it. You know, that's when he said, this is it. I have no other way to get out.
Wow.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, so like at first when I was doing the research, there was a historical society lady. Well, she was an older lady and she was real timid about things, but she was trying to do her part and do it like she should, you know. We were dealing with a sensitive topic. I went to the library there and they had a young librarian that was new and she was all excited about it. And she says, oh, well, when you get it written, let us know. We'll put it, you know, we'll work with the high school. It's the only stage we have here in town, but we'll get it at the high school. That would be great. So it took me a year or so to get the thing ready. And I called back and I got somebody at the library and I'd written the girls, oh no, she's not here anymore. And I said, well, I really want to bring this Nat Turner play there. She says, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't bring that play here.
Wow.
And I called the lady at the historical society. She says, no, because I had invited her to come see it. And she couldn't at the time. She sort of gave me a little, you know, encouragement, but not a lot. And then when I called back though, but something had gone on about this, one of the victims that were killed, one of the slaveholders that was killed. Her house was, they moved the house to this agricultural museum area. And there was a whole lot of dissension about spending money to doing that and not spending it somewhat on, you know, Nat Turner, but, you know, why do this for the victim? You know, so it was really, don't bring that play here now. That's what I heard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So now that the play is written and, you know, people have received it well, you have people performing it like we are going to do in 2 days. Do you still feel haunted?
No, I know. I haven't felt haunted since it's done well. And I was haunted. This is another story. We were asked by a theater in Hampton to bring the man who was the artistic director there. He wanted to get to know local playwrights. So we were the only playwrights group in the area. So he invited us to come in and to bring a play every month and do a stage reading in front of an audience and do a talkback, because I think he wanted to see what kind of work we did, how we took getting feedback, both positive and negative. And so we did this for a year. And at the end of the year, he said, wow, I found my writers. And he was so excited he was going to, you know, produce new plays and so forth there. But that he had to leave and that didn't work out. But anyway, we had planned to do Nat Turner, to read the Nat Turner play. It didn't need reworking, but it was the January slot and it was the first Sunday thing. So it was the day after New Year's. And we knew we weren't going to get a big audience. And we knew we couldn't put together a big cast show because people were you know. So I said, the group just decided, well, let's just read the Nat Turner piece. And I said, okay, we can do that. It just takes one actor. So we had an actor preparing to do it. But he called me at 4:00 and we were going to be there, supposed to be there at 6. And he was ill. He said, I got the stomach flu. I cannot. So the only person I knew, we had to cancel something else with this theater. And I said, we can't cancel anything else. I said, you know, it's a Sunday afternoon. It's after New Year's. We're not going to get a big crowd. So I called this Dee Dee Delaney. He was one of the best actors in the area. He had seen the play. And he was white, but I said, Dee Dee, you know, we've got to read this script. You know, we can just explain what happened. And I don't think there's going to be that many people there. So let's just do it. We have to do it. We can't cancel. So we went. Well, we had a huge crowd. They put it in the newspaper. We were doing it and people came. Well, I can tell you, the huge part of the audience was really upset when they saw that white man sitting up there.
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for the guy, the artistic director, to get up and explain what happened. Because we had to
I just want to change his name to Connor Turner. That's not what you just said. I'm like, this is, ladies and gentlemen, Connor Turner. Connor's last struggle.
Wow.
So that's crazy. That's
Isn't it
crazy.
crazy? It is crazy, but we read it. And I mean, we did. I mean, we read, I mean, the artistic director got up there and he didn't say, we understand we didn't intend this.
Yeah, he just read it. Yeah.
If you want to hear it, we'll do it, and if it's going to be too upsetting, we just won't, but we're here to do it. And but he didn't do that, because that's what I thought maybe we would do, just say we don't intend to do, to be disrespectful or anything, but we just didn't feel like we could cancel if people showed up. But if you aren't for it, that's fine. We won't do it. Well, he didn't do that. He got up and said, "Oh, wow, we didn't expect all of you here. Thank you so much for coming. We're running late. Let's get started." And oh my God, I mean, in front of me, body language, he was punching his wife and going like this, let's get out of here. And she said, "No, I want to see what they're up to." And he said, "Well, all right then." He just folded his arms, put his head down. Well, we went through the piece. The room was silent. All the shuffling and all the stuff had ceased. The room was silent. And he got up and he still didn't say anything. But he asked, "Well, how many of you in here really think you know the Nat Turner story? I mean, really?" And there was people there from Hampton University, and they raised their hands, and this one, and about 6 people. And so he asked a couple of them, and they said, "Wow, this was great. I mean, this really is Nat Turner's story." And so then he said, "Okay, well, let's address the elephant in the room." And he said, "This is not what we intended. The actor got sick. And we thought about maybe, we would just cancel it. But when everybody kept coming, I just thought, man, let's just do it and let's see what happens." And he said, "So does anybody want to speak to how you felt?" And the man in front of me, he just said, "I'm going to tell you something. I was mad. Nat Turner is one of our heroes, and I was not going to sit here and watch that man play a hero of mine. And I wanted to leave, but she wouldn't let me." And so he said, "So I wasn't going to watch. So I folded my arms and I put my head down, and I couldn't put my fingers in my ears, but I had to listen." But he said, "But then I heard the music, and I heard the words. And when I opened my eyes, I really didn't see a white man. I just heard and saw Nat Turner. It was his story. It was his." And I tell you, that just gave me chills to no end. And then the guy that was supposed to, and I mean, everybody just kept making comments like that. And that showed me the power of story. I had never seen that before. I mean, it blew all of us away. And the guy that was supposed to read, we had planned for him to perform the play as well. We were going to put up another production of it, had the director and everything. And I went to a couple rehearsals, and it was, I just didn't like it. I just couldn't get into it because of what happened with that audience. I said, there's something more that has to be done here. There is just something more. That audience just inspired me. And so that's when I made the second, I didn't revise the script. This script worked, but I made an addition to it that people love that too. I mean, that is really well received. So anyway, it's been a fascinating ride. I have learned so much, and there's been so many people involved, great people, and it's great. I'm not haunted anymore. No.
Good for you. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, in 2 days, John Adams will be, I'm not even sure what number Nat that will be performing Nat Turner. And you have a panel of former Nats that you're going to be talking about in a couple of days. I just want to know, like, how have you felt about the performances and the variations of this production in the past? I mean, how have you received them?
It's been really amazing. Everyone who has played Nat has brought something different to the role. I've seen I've seen somebody just took that preacher role, took the preacher, and he was the preacher. There was others that was more into the warrior. He was never an avenger. He wasn't avenging anything. He was fighting to be free. And I understood that more from the last person that did it in Norfolk. He was an older gentleman, and he told the Talkback. He said, it was a lot of work to do this play. I had seen it before. I was so honored to do it, because he said, I'm older. I didn't think I could do a real production, but he did a reading where you couldn't tell he was reading with Zoom, and it was amazing. And he said, I finally realized that Nat Turner was really at war. Mm-hmm. He was at war every day. He could see somebody in his community being whipped or other horrible things happening. And they couldn't see a way out. I mean, this was just going to be forever. And he couldn't take it. And so he and his comrades went to war. And he said, because a lot of people have a lot of trouble accepting the fact that half of the people killed were children. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. John and I talked about that a little bit. And it's because we're human. We're all humans, but anyway, but they each have brought something different and new, and it's always a surprise, and it's always delightful. It's rewarding.
We talk a lot amongst the three of us about what we like to see and the story we would like to tell. And our director, Tim Jones back here, has done a phenomenal job trying to articulate this in a different way that's relevant to today. Because what we have right now is a pressurized society, and we couldn't think of a production. I would say that I can't say we can't think of production, but this was such a relevant production given what we're going through as a society. And so Tim, he's a phenomenal director, but he's also a great storyteller. And do you have any questions for her about that? I had somewhere I was going, but I'm thinking maybe you should ask because we talk about this so much.
Well, first of all, Patty, it's just an honor to meet you. I've heard so much about you from Beth and from John's, the most. And then April and I discussed, we were excited about this conversation leading up to this. A question that I would have for you. Well, first I want to say something. It's very interesting that a white woman would write such a honest, raw, powerful story about a Black character, regardless of what type of character that was. And I want to know, and I think April alluded to it, what was some of your family members and friends' reactions, to you writing a story about a character who is both loved and hated?
Well, actually, people in the Turner family have seen it. And again, they're my generation, and they love it. Now, my mother is the other generation, and she was our concession lady for the first 8 years we were open, and she was proud of it.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So, but we do have, some that are very obvious racists in the family, and and being in the arts, I don't have a real artsy family, so sort of I'm the,
You're the black sheep.
Maybe that. The outlier.
I'm sorry, the outlier. You're the outlier. I apologize.
Outlier. Black sheep.
That's the white way of saying the black sheep. But I got you. You're the outlier. Okay, no problem.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. But okay, well, John, Nat 2.21, how do you feel about doing this role? You have any questions for Patty or any expressions that you have?
Patty and I have had a really long conversation. We spoke on the phone a while ago, and I know that people who are seeing this now aren't privy to that conversation. But rather than rehash that, there's one question in particular that has been bouncing around in my head. It was actually posed to me by Tim's niece.
Oh.
And well, she asked about backlash. I'm sorry, it wasn't his niece. I apologize. It wasn't his niece that asked the question. But in my explanation of it, there was something that I said. And here's the thing that I want to ask you. With your history of where you're from, you explained about your mom, her generation, and then with what we're going through now, in this era, what through line do you see from both the Black and white perspective that connects the people from 1831, Black or white, to the people of 2021? Like what makes a person like me able to tap into what Nat was going through, and then what makes white people who are either activists, who would be the equivalent of modern day abolitionists, what makes them able to connect to seeing what is happening today, and allows them to resonate with people back in 1831? Like, what's the through line between those two that generational gap, 1831 and 2021?
I think the biggest thing is seeing the humanity in each other, and empathy. We have to realize that, let's go back to one of the things that made me angry, and that was not being taught history. A lot of history was left out. So today, history is being taught. Stories are being told. A lot of stories are being told. We see it on Facebook all the time, especially in February. And it's not just the stories of the leaders and the famous people. Stories are being told of everyday people that that contributed to build it, that helped contribute to this building this country. And these stories are coming out. And before this, there was, we sort of looked at it as African Americans, blacks in this country had one story. That was the story that was fed to us. And now we see that there are all of these other stories coming out. And as these stories grow, and this has been happening for a good while now, as these stories grow, and as they fill in the holes in our American history, I think that these stories are bringing out more empathy and seeing the humanity in each other, and starting to love and respect each other. And if we want to move forward, that's the only way we're going to do it. We have to do it together. We cannot keep letting this divide be there. And that's why I wrote Nat like I did. I didn't make him this superhero or this awful villain. And if you came into a theater with that impression, I think most people move a little bit and start coming across a bridge to maybe meet in the middle somewhere. And I call him one of the most divisive characters in American history. And if we can get greater understanding for a character like him, that we can all start understanding more about the man and come together a little bit in our thoughts and feelings about him, then we can do that for other things as well. So that's why I think the humanity. Yes, the humanity in each other. Yeah. I think that's the through line. See, the ones that are on one side, they denied humanity.
Right.
They denied part of our population, their humanity. And then there are people on the other side that just said, that's, you can't do that. I mean, and there's been this fight. This is the struggle. This is the river of struggle we're in together. And is to get us, flowing together and, stop the division, stop the division. I see somebody's come back, so.
I do.
Anyway, but yeah, I
It's just, we've time for one more question, April.
Okay.
Make
Well,
it a good one.
actually, we were about to wrap
Wrap
up.
it up.
I mean, because when she said denying humanity, I think again that is something that we all can relate to, especially in the times that we are in right now. And Patty, again, I want to thank you for writing the play.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for doing the work. It's super brave.
Mhm.
You know, the compassion that you have in your heart, the stories that you tell, you know, it's just amazing. And I am inspired. I hope that we do justice to you. We hope that we make you proud. And we hope that we make more people aware. Anything else that you guys want
I'm
to add?
done. That was my question. Patty, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it for everything.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will look forward to seeing you. And also thank you for your support, because you've been engaged
You really
through
have.
this entire
Yeah.
process. And, you know, I mean, you know, we can't call Tyler Perry and say, hey, can you get on the call?
No, I can't do that.
So Patty, we want to thank you so much for your transparency, your openness, and also your artistry, because you are an artistry. You're a great playwright, and we are looking forward to what you have in the future, and we will be connected with you forever. So
That's true. Thank you. And, you know, I appreciate so much Conejo and CBJ doing this, because I've always wanted to see Nat go across the country and to see, you know, the effect he has in other places. And you're the first guys to do it. So this is a great gift to me and to this piece. And I thank you for it. And I'm so excited. I know it's going to be real, talking to John and just hearing your enthusiasm. And like you said, it's been a work of love, and it was for me too. So you can't beat love.
Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap. You can't beat love.
Thank you so much, Patty.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
thank you,
Patty.
guys.
Thank you
And
so much.
we will be talking soon.
Good.
All right.
Good.
All right.
Good luck. Break a
Thank you.
leg.
Thank you. Take care. I'm gonna break both of them.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi.
Thank you, Beth.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.